Hello again, foe and friend. Welcome back to the Cultura Anime blog. As always, I'm Ariel. This week I was asked to analyze a song that is significant to me in some way, in terms of whether I think it is useful. I'll get into what that means exactly in a moment. I've noticed something very interesting with my generation in terms of music. Either you sort of listen to the mainstream stuff that's played on the radio, or you kind of are into your own independent type of music of whatever genre. In reality, any one individual's taste is probably composed of popular mainstream music, some songs, and then also some independent stuff. But I find that, on the whole, people tend to identify very actively as only listening to non-mainstream music. And I think Marilyn Manson, in a Rolling Stone interview, explains the reason for this pretty well. It's no wonder that kids are growing up more cynical. They have a lot of information in front of them. They can see that they're living in a world that's made of bullshit. I totally agree with that. Especially these days, people tend to be so averse to popular music. I can't tell you how many friends I have that hate a song just because of how many people like it. And these days, as a person in my generation, music is a really big part of your identity. One of the first things you ask someone when you're getting to know them, one of the first things that I ask someone when I'm getting to know them is what type of music they listen to. Now, oftentimes your music tastes won't line up, and that's not necessarily a deal breaker in any relationship. But when your tastes do line up, there's kind of this feeling that you have this immediate connection, or something that you can immediately understand each other on. And if you meet someone who has like the same favorite couple bands as you, there's this feeling that they get something that you also get, that nobody else understands. And that's a really intense connection. And that's what I've always kind of seen music as just a way to connect with others, and often even yourself. Sometimes you're listening to a song and an artist will say something that just describes exactly how you feel in a way that you've never been able to articulate. And you kind of just get this, okay, someone knows how I'm feeling and I'm not totally insane. Professor of Journalism Deirdre Pike at Humboldt State University talks about evaluating the usefulness of music. Dr. Pike suggests that in order for music to be useful, it should be honest. I mostly agree with this sentiment. She also argues that to be useful to consumers, music should be productive and independent. I'm going to use a song of personal significance to talk about these points. It's a song called Glue, originally by a band called the Gerbils, and the first time I heard it, it was played by a band, Neutral Milk Hotel. Now, I don't even know how to describe it, but there's something about the way that the music sounds, along with the lyrics, which honestly most people, when I show them the song, kind of express that it may sound like nonsense to them. But the song just conveys some really deep and sad truth that I connect with. And I can't even name it. But I want to say, yes, it's honest. It's the most honest thing that I can even imagine. But that's because it's so important to me and I relate to it so well. And then we have like Justin Bieber's song, Baby, where he's like, baby, 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 no, I thought you'd always be mine. Now, at face value, I can relate to that. I've been in relationships that ended that I thought I was going to be with them forever because I was young and naive. So yeah, I can totally relate to that. It is so vastly different from this song, Glue, by the Gerbils. And the way it makes me feel is so vastly and incredibly different. And to me, even though I can relate to that Justin Bieber song, it's not honest. It's just kind of annoying. And I don't know, how can we even say whether popular music is honest if we can't even imagine how many people went into creating that one song? And is that even a proper measure of honesty? Does something only have to be created by one person for it to be honest? I mean, could a robot musician create a really honest and true song? When I even start to think about the question of can popular music be honest, and I think about the incident wherein Nirvana was prohibited essentially from playing the song Rape Me on MTV, it just seems like nonsense to say that any popular music could be honest. I mean, Kurt Cobain there wrote a song about how the music industry was essentially like raping him and his soul. And then he wants to communicate that to the world and MTV's like, no, can't do that. So yeah, well, I guess the song is honest. And that's a place where the censorship is obvious. How many arenas are there that we can't even see the censorship going on? But let's move on from honesty and talk about independence. I want to say instinctively that my song by the Gerbils, Glue, is independent, because when it was created, it was a technically independent record label in Athens, Georgia, and the record label in its beginnings was essentially a group of friends in their basement. So by any measure of independence, I would argue that the song Glue is. And then there's productive, as in producing positive social change, I guess. I don't know that my song Glue by the Gerbils necessarily has that. I'm not even sure if it's been heard by more than a couple thousand people. So for such a little-known song, I don't even really understand the purpose of labeling it non-productive. Which kind of brings me to what I really wanted to say, which is that I don't really understand the purpose of using this formula, or really any sort of formula, to analyze the usefulness of popular media. When I first was like, okay, I'm gonna talk about the usefulness of songs, when I was first trying to think about what I was gonna say in this video, it took me a couple hours to even wrap my head around the concept of evaluating the usefulness of a song. Because honestly, it just seems insane to me. Why do we need to mark a song as either useful or not? What happens to songs that aren't useful? Do we credit them as not mattering and therefore refuse to play them on the radio or something? It's just that specifically a measure of usefulness doesn't really resonate with me in terms of analysis of popular media at all. The way I see it, if something causes an emotional reaction in any way, then it has done something and is therefore useful. The only way I think a song could be not useful is if it literally incites nothing in anybody. Which I don't think is true of any music. Because at the very least, you're gonna be mad. So, I don't know how to end this because I just couldn't bring myself to really seriously apply this formula to a song that I hold so dear to my heart, when it's a formula that I kind of completely disagree with. Or at least I don't understand it. And I tried to at first, but after trying to talk about songs in terms of usefulness, what I just kept thinking was that this doesn't make any sense. And it probably does for some people. But the anthropologist over here is just gonna sit in the corner and call everything a cultural artifact. Thank you again for watching, and I hope to see you next week.